So you can come over to your mat, to your setup. You have your blankets. And we're going to rest hips back and head on the blanket. And just let your arms be beside your body. You can take your feet as wide as your mat and let your knees rest together. Feel the footprint of right and left foot, really almost like spread wide into the mat. And we'll take about 10 rounds of breath here and really allow yourself to be supported by the earth. You're sort of letting everything melt and spread. And if you can visualize that muscle from the diagram that I showed you, just see if you can visualize it lengthening, it just being relaxed and easy. Allow your inhale to be deep and your exhale to be long. Notice if you have any holding or any grasping towards even like what's next, right? Notice that and just see if you can rest back into the earth and experience just some ease and letting go. And then we'll separate the knees and line up your feet about hip distance apart, maybe a little bit more. And bring the right knee in towards your chest. Take your hands and clasp your hands behind your right hamstring. Left knee will stay bent on the floor. And then instead of pulling your knee into your chest, flex your foot, your right foot, and press your right foot away. So press your right foot into an imaginary wall and just resist back with your hands. And if you can, slide your hands as close to your sit bones as possible. Keep pressing that foot away. And then extend your left leg out, flex your left foot, and press through the left foot as well. So left foot is pressing into an imaginary wall. Right foot is pressing into an imaginary wall. Both feet are flexed, toes back towards the shins. Let's go 3 more rounds of breath here. Deepening the inhale and lengthening the exhale. And then you can keep your hand where it is behind your right hamstring, or bring your hand to the front of your shin, your hands to the front of your shins. And on your next exhale, draw your knee in towards your chest. Keep your attention on your left leg, so pressing your left foot into the imaginary wall. And on your inhale, let your knee just sort of naturally move away from your chest. Exhale, draw it in. Inhale, let it move away. Exhale, draw it in. Take about 3 more rounds here, just like that. Left foot is stretching away, pressing into the imaginary wall. And then bring your right hand, your hands behind your right leg again, bend your left knee and place the sole of your foot on the floor. And extend your right leg up towards the ceiling. Flexing at the ankle, toes back towards your shins. Press your leg away. So instead of pulling your leg back towards you, press like you're trying to press the front of your femur into your hands. You're making an imprint on the ceiling with your right foot. Now, can you draw the right hip a little bit further away from your right side ribs? So creating some length between the outer right hip and the lower ribs, the low ribs. Lengthen that space. Keep imprinting your right foot on the ceiling. If for any reason this isn't working in your body with your hands clasped behind your leg because you have like very tight hamstrings, say, you could just have a strap here and take the time to go ahead and get that strap. And you could, so I guess I lied about the strap, but you could have a strap there and just be pulling on the ends of the strap. Otherwise, if you're able to clasp behind your leg, do that. Good. One more breath here. And then release your right foot to the floor. Stretch your right leg long. Stretch your left leg long. So you should feel a little support from being on the blanket underneath your hips as your legs reach out. And just relax the legs. Let your feet fall out to the side. And take 2 full breaths. Deepen the inhale. Lengthen the exhale. And then bend your knees again. Take the soles of your feet to the floor. And now bend your left knee. Flex at the left ankle. So pull toes back towards shins. Interlace the opposite grip now behind your left thigh. Okay. Same thing. Now press the foot away. So your hands, if possible, are closer to your bum than to your knee. Closer to your sit bones. Press the leg away. That leg is bent. And then reach the right leg long and flex the right ankle. So both ankles are flexed, toes back towards shins. Reach the right leg towards the imaginary wall. Reach the left foot towards the imaginary wall and press like you're trying to press your femur into your hands. The head of your femur into your hands. Okay, once you feel you've got it, and if you need to look up here, you can. Once you feel you've got it, 3 rounds of breath. And then the same thing we did on the other side. You can keep your hands here, bring them to your chin, and on your next exhale, you'll draw your knee in towards your chest. Inhale, let your knee relax away. Keep pressing your right foot into the imaginary wall. Exhale to bring the knee in a little closer. Left foot is flexed. Inhale, you kind of release, just pulsing here. 3 more rounds. And take the back of your leg again, or take the strap around your leg. Bend your right knee, put your right foot on the floor. Extend your left leg up towards the ceiling. Pull your toes back towards your shins. And then press your leg away. Press the leg away and see if you can increase the space between your left hip and your left low ribs. It's almost like you're wrapping your left hip forward, imprinting your foot on the ceiling. You can stretch the right leg long here and imprint that foot on the wall in front of you. Both legs engaged. So really no work in the upper body. You shouldn't feel really anything in the shoulders. This is all in the legs. All the work in the legs here. How about 3 more rounds of breath? If you have your right leg extended long, you can just bring the left leg down and extend the left leg long. Let your feet fall out to the side. And if it works in your shoulders, sweep your arms up overhead and reach, stretching the fingertips away and allowing the legs to stretch from the femur, from the pelvis area, all the way down through the feet. If this is too much for your shoulders, just take a variation. It's a little wider, so you're making like a Y with your arms. And just letting everything really go here. And take 3 rounds of breath here. And then coming back to that position of comfort. So with your knees bent and the soles of your feet to the floor, take the heel of your hand right to the crease of your leg and pelvis there. So heel of your hand, and just press about 20%. Just press the heel of your hand into your leg. Just a suggestion for your leg, your femur, the top of your femur to lengthen down towards, or put or reach down towards your feet. 20%, that's all. Take a couple of rounds of breath. And then just increase that to about 50%. So not all your effort, just 50%. So really just lengthening the space again between the top of the thigh, away from the hip pointers. 2 more full breaths. And then release your legs long once more. Arms to your side or over your head in a Y or all the way back behind you. And just feel for lengthening from tips of the fingers to the tips of the toes. And we're going to come off the blankets, so you could roll to one side to come off the blankets. And if you have 2 blocks, we're going to use the blocks together. If you don't have 2 blocks, it will be fine. I'm going to remove one blanket and just have the lower blanket underneath. So I'm going to be just for my knees. Take my 2 blocks. Actually, yeah, just have your blocks handy. Let's go ahead and come to table with your knees behind your blanket. Knees behind your blanket and your hands alongside your blanket. And if you need to make any adjustments, you can do that right now. And then a couple of cat-cows. As you inhale into cow the next time, hold, then press and round and bring your heels back to, your hips back to your heels in child's pose. Inhale up to cow. And exhale, press and round and lower your hips back to your heels in the child's pose. And then inhale back up to cow and come to a neutral spine. Great. Now walk your hands back towards your knees. You're going to set your left knee on the blanket and your right knee, your right leg forward. So you're in proposal pose. So front ankle is under the front knee. And then take your 2 blocks. If you only have one, you'll just start with one on the bent leg side. The blocks right lined up with your hips. So the block's on the highest setting to start for most of us, I think. Fingertips on the block. Great, and then from here, with the block, if you only have one block, it'll be on your left side, the knee that's down onto the floor. Inhale the right arm up. And as you exhale, actually let's turn the back toes under. Turn the back toes under. See if my block's in the way there. Turn the back toes under and press through the back heel. Press through the back heel with the toes under. Now with right arm extended, can you reach over, arcing towards where the ceiling and the top of the wall meet? One more full breath. See if you can imagine the lengthening of the psoas and the iliacus. Inhale back to center now. If you just have the one block, you'll shift it to the other side. And if you had 2 blocks, fingertips down onto the second block. Inhale, left arm up. Keep pressing through the back heel. As you reach over towards, you're not really side bending super deep or back bending super deep, but reaching to where the ceiling and the wall meet. Shoulders right over the block. And inhale back to center. Now, if you have the 2 blocks, you'll bring those 2 blocks forward on either side of your front foot. So that front foot is off of the blanket setup. It's just the back knee that's on the blanket setup. If you only have 1 block here, I'd probably move them aside and just come to your fingertips. If you have the 2 blocks, it's going to be helpful. Keep pressing through the back heel. Toes are turned under, and allow your front knee to bend and come into a lunge. So you're very light on the fingertips. And take a couple of rounds of breath here. Pressing yourself back up. Bring your hands and your knees back to table. And a couple rounds of cat-cow. You could do that same vinyasa where you come into cow on the inhale, and on the exhale, drop your hips back to child's pose. Just anything to sort of neutralize the pelvis and the spine after being asymmetrical. And then we'll come back and we'll now put the right knee on the blanket. The left foot is forward, ankle under the knee, and it's off my blanket on the side of the blanket. And I have my blocks to the outside lined up right underneath or right beside my hips. Again, if you only have 1 block, you can make it work. Fingertips on the right block. Turn the right toes under and press through the back heel. Inhale the left arm up. And exhale that little arch, thinking about lengthening the psoas. So you're reaching sort of over towards where the ceiling, not going for a lot of side bend here, just where the ceiling and the wall meet. Keep pressing through that back heel. Inhale up to center, and then switch your block or just come down onto the left block. Inhale the right arm up and reach for the ceiling wall connection. Inhale back to center, and then with your 2 blocks forward, and you can decide what level your blocks will be at, but you really want to stay light on the fingertips. Press through the back heel. Toes are turned under as you lunge forward. Press into the front foot. Really press that foot down into the floor. So we're not just lunging forward without some support, right? And we're not just collapsing into that hip, but we're stretching the front of that hip flexor. And then press yourself back up, come back to the tabletop, and take a couple of rounds of cat-cow once more. Great, now, I didn't want it to be awkward with the prop. So now just take your blanket and set it aside, and you'll come back onto your back. Bend your knees, set the soles of your feet to the floor, and find your hip pointers. So we did some of this on Monday, so we'll just review again. So what we want is we don't want the psoas to have to do all the work. And this is why we work with strengthening the transverse abdominis and the obliques and the rectus abdominis, right? The back muscles. So draw the hip pointers together. Draw them towards one another. Feel the deep belly engagement. You can leave your hands on your hip pointers if that helps you to find this engagement. And then we'll stretch the right leg long. Keep that deep belly engagement and try to lift your right foot off the floor, but it's stuck. Then lift it just 1 inch. Take a couple rounds of breath. Notice if your right hip sort of flares out to the right, and draw the right hip pointer in towards the center of your body. Keeping the leg straight, toes pointing up towards the ceiling. And then release your right foot, right leg to the ground. Come back to both knees bent. Find that engagement again. Draw the hip pointers towards one another. Reach the left leg long. Try to pick your left leg up off the floor, but it's stuck. That should help you to find that deep belly engagement. And then lift it up 1 inch, just 1 inch or 2, maybe at tops. And notice if the left hip flares out to the left, draw your left hip pointer in towards the center. And release. Bring both feet back to center. And bend both knees, and then rest your knees together once again. Relax. Take a couple of breaths here just to feel the integration of that work. Great. Now, bring your left hand behind your head. Take your right hand behind your right leg. Okay. Left leg is going to go long. Flex your right foot and press your foot into imaginary wall, and then lift. Head and shoulders off the ground. Press the right foot into the imaginary wall and lift your left foot off the floor just 1 inch. Draw the hip pointers towards one another. Two more rounds of breath. And release. Stretch your right leg long. Take your arms overhead. Take a full breath cycle. Come back to position of comfort. Take your right hand underneath your head, your left hand behind your left thigh. So we're kind of doing a variation of Ardha Navasana, half boat. So lift the head and shoulders, press the left leg away, lift the right leg just 1 inch or so off the floor. Two more rounds of breath. Release your right leg back to the floor. Release your left leg. Stretch everything long. Take 1 round of breath. So just while we're lying on our back here, I'll just make you aware of a nice stretch. Imagine that your mat was your bed, and if you slide over to one side, it won't make any sense here when we're on the floor. But if your mat was your bed, you could slide over to one side, and then whatever side you're on, I'm close to my left side here. You can just let that leg drape over the bed and let it sort of hover down towards the floor. You might even touch the floor, but that's a nice stretch for the front of the hip and get into the psoas. And then you can go over to the other side of the bed and do the same thing on the opposite side. Let's go ahead and roll on our bellies. Make a little hand pillow, resting your forehead on your hand pillow, and then slide your right knee up, so half frog. Another good stretch for the iliopsoas here. So just take a couple of rounds of breath. And then straighten that leg out and bring the opposite knee up, sliding up, half frog on the other side. Slide that leg long. Bring your hands underneath your shoulders, press up through table. And then we're going to set up on our knees. And you'll take a block to one side and reach the other leg long. Turn the sole of your foot down to the floor. And with fingertips on the block, inhale, reach up, and reach again for where the ceiling and the wall meet. Inhale to reach the top arm back up. And exhale, switch the position of your legs. So bend through the other knee, bring the other leg out. Sole of your foot to the floor, knee block on its probably highest setting to the outside of your bent knee. Inhale, whatever leg is long, inhale that arm up, and then reach for the ceiling wall connection. One more full breath. And release. Great. Now, you're going to take your block, and we're going to stand on the block. And if you have a little bit of wall space or even a door jamb, you don't need much, just something to balance. Just going to change my orientation here. So I'm going to bring my block in close to my wall space, and I'm going to step my left foot on the block. And I'm just resting my hand lightly for balance, but I'm going to take the leg that's free, and I'm just going to swing it back and forth. And if I can, I'm going to do this without moving my upper body very much. Just in the legs. See if you can get a nice, easy, graceful, fluid swing going. Good, and then you can step off the block. Step your other foot up on the block. And nice, easy. And notice maybe just one side feels a little tighter than the other. That's certainly the case for me. I have a little more restriction on my left side. And then step down. Great, from here, we'll come back down to the mat with the block. You're gonna set the block in between your ankles. And my back turned towards you so I can show you. So 1 or 2 blocks if you need. And really the feet are nice and straight. All right, the feet are pointing away straight. Then you're gonna come into hero's pose on the block. Now, if you know that you don't need the block, you could go right to the mat here. But maybe for the rest of us, we'll start on the block, hero's pose, Virasana. And then from here, see if you can bring your hands behind you. Feel an opening here in the front of the thighs. Now, engage the hip pointers. Pull the hip pointers towards one another. If you are open enough to not need the block, you might go all the way back to your forearms or rest on your elbows or all the way to your back. Press your shins into the floor. Really press your shins into the floor and your hip pointers towards one another. And then wherever you are, if you're on your back, walk yourself up the same way you went in. Come back to sitting. We'll take the block out to the side. And from here, let's bring the right leg forward again. So you're now in that same proposal pose. You just don't have a blanket underneath your knee. Turn your back toes under and press up into crescent lunge. Lift the back hamstring towards the ceiling. Stack the back heel over the back toes. And add the arms if you like. Press into the front foot. Reach with the fingers. Inhaling and exhaling. And then on your next inhale, if you haven't lifted the arms up, go ahead and lift the arms up, inhale, and exhale down around the front foot. Step your front foot back to your back foot in downward facing dog. Might feel like a true restful pose now. All right, just a little counter pose. From the downward facing dog, inhale the left leg out behind you and sweep it forward between your hands and press up crescent lunge on the other side. So once you're up, lift the back hamstring towards the ceiling. Your heel is stacked over your toes. So it's kind of that same position with the heel that we did when we were kneeling, yes? Pull the low ribs in, pull the hip pointers in towards one another. Inhale the arms up. Press into the front foot. Inhale, reaching the fingertips towards the ceiling. And exhale, hands down around the front foot. Step back to downward facing dog. Walk your feet to your hands or your hands to your feet. Come into a halfway lift and into a fold. Pressing into your feet, lifting your arches, will come up to standing. And then opening up to the long edge of the mat. And again, 2 blocks if you have them. We're going to be going to Parsvanatha, the side, extended side angle. So here, I want if I have 2 blocks, I'm going to use 2 blocks for this. I'm going to turn my right foot out and my left heel slightly out. And I'm going to set my blocks to the inside of my front foot, my right foot, inside of that foot. And then I'm going to bend through the front knee and bring my fingertips to the blocks. Stacking my front knee over my front ankle, pressing into the big toe mound of the front foot, but bringing the knee towards the pinky toe side. See if that helps you engage as you press into your fingertips and you pull the knee over. See if that helps you engage in your lower abdominals. Great, and then from here, you can place your right hand on the inside block, bring your left hand to your hip. Press the outer back heel to the floor. Inhale, sweep the left arm up and over. Parsvanatha, extended side angle. And then you can use your top arm to help windmill you back up, pressing into both feet. We'll turn this whole setup to the other side. So blocks about shoulder distance inside the front foot, turn the back heel out. And we'll bring our fingertips to the blocks. Press into the big toe mound of the front foot, but bring the knee towards the pinky side of your front foot. As you press into the blocks, or press the blocks into the floor like you're pressing away from the floor, and see if that helps you engage in your low belly. Then the inside hand can come to the block, back hand to the hip. Inhale, top arm up and over. Two more full breaths here. And then as you press into both feet, you can windmill up with the top hand, turn both feet to face, line up parallel to one another, and heel toe your feet together. Come to the top of your mat. Inhale, reach up. Exhale, fold through center. Halfway lift. Exhale, fold, plant your hands, step back, downward facing dog. Inhale to come forward into the high plank, and then lower your knees to the floor, drop your belly to the floor. Press into a cobra, and up through table, and hips back towards your heels in a child's pose. And then we'll slide the hands back to the hips, drop hips to one side, come back to your back. If you want a little extra credit, you could do a few bridge pulses, flexing the glutes to lift and dropping the glutes back down. So it's a little bit different than bridge, where we're really working the glutes as we press into the glutes, press the feet into the floor. So if you're with me here, you could do 10, 12 of these or so. And if this is not spicing for you today, just come to a figure 4. You're ready to start slowing down. Allowing your hips to really settle to the floor. Make sure in your figure 4 you take both sides. And if you've been pumping up with the glutes, you can then go ahead and take the figure 4. And then from your figure 4, any twist that you like, you could just even let the knees rock back and forth softly, or you could stack your knees and twist, or you could take the figure 4 and twist top leg, sort of pulling a little bit on the bottom leg, so stretching through the outer hip. Give both sides of your body the same amount of time in the twist. And before you drop into Shavasana, one more possible variation, and you might even rest in Shavasana with this variation, is to take the widest position of the block and set that underneath your sacrum. Now, this doesn't work in everybody's low back, but if it works in yours, you can stretch your legs long and you kind of make a, kind of a banana shape here with your body. I'm going to keep a little slight engagement in the navel. Another variation, block stays there. Bend the knees, rest the knees together. Again, just a little slight engagement so you don't totally collapse in your back. Maybe one leg at a time to open up the front of the leg and work that a little more opening in the psoas. And follow the wisdom of your own body. If that served you for a little bit and then you want to come down into traditional Shavasana, just allow the wisdom to lead you. And see if you can come back to that place of really just ease and fluidity with your breath. The ground, the earth supporting you. Soften the muscles around your eyes. Between the brow. Let the back of your head really spread against the floor. Soften your hands. Stay as long as you like in your Shavasana. That's the beauty of this online practice. You just stay there if you like. And if you are coming back to a seat, take your time. And bring your hands in front of your heart center in a gesture of prayer that works for you. Just acknowledge that we all possess the balance of effort and ease. We all really know where that sweet spot is. And maybe live in that sweet spot, just not as individuals and as a culture, as a world culture. So we have less suffering, more delight. Thanks for joining today. Namaste.